Hey guys, we are getting so close to the end of this course, and thank you so much for sticking around. Now let's talk about herding cats. If you haven't ever heard that expression before, or if you've ever tried to herd cats, you'll know that it's really next to impossible to do so. And so I jokingly named this section herding cats because a big portion of an accountant's job is much like I imagine librarians feel like it's we are organizing things for people who often have hired us because they're not particularly organized or don't have the time to organize things on their own. In addition to that, you are typically um, you are typically trying to manage multiple clients at a time, and especially as you're growing that portfolio, sometimes the cat is you. Sometimes you might have six different things you need to do, and trying to make sure that you keep on track of everything so that you don't have one of those terrible days right before a deadline where you're having to stay up and work on things because you forgot to take care of it. One of the biggest wins that you're going to have owning your own accounting firm is designing a system for which you have checklists, for which you have a repeatable, scalable process. So part of this is hurting you and your organization, and part of this is hurting your clients. This will be a really short video, but I did want to touch on some of it. And this will be a part that I suspect that if you guys sign up for the email mentoring part, might be a big part of conversations going forward as you get your new clients, how to navigate some of this. I will tell you right up front, I don't have all of the answers. I still will end up having a day where I'm like, oh my goodness, this has just been one of those days that just got ahead of me, and things didn't go as planned. But I can share as many tips that I have to help with that. So let's see what we can do. So the first thing I want to talk about is the internal herding of cats. Is you really do need to, you don't have to be a natural at task or project management. I will be perfectly frank with you. You might have noticed in my speaking style that I kind of squirrel all over the place. I don't really have a great attention span, which you would think means that I don't really fit an accountant's mold very well. And I maybe don't, except that I do have tools that help me to do that. So, one of the things I want to stress is that it's probably best, especially once you get that second client, that you set some sort of a repeatable procedure out for yourself in which you assign deadlines to yourself so that you don't run into a day when you have more items to do than you have time in the day. And you also want to make sure that you can schedule around other commitments that you have that maybe aren't related to work. So, highly recommend you get some sort of task or project management software. I will be including a document in my tech stack document about some of the options that are out there that I find that are really useful. There are also in like the CRM systems that are made for accounting. Task and project management is included in that. Um, One of the things that I used when I first got started was just Excel because I was used to seeing that in a corporate environment where someone would build a checklist of all the things that needed to be done every month. Um, and then would assign the names of the people and the deadline that they were due. So that's where I started. QuickBooks internally has some items that you can do that with in the accountant view that's free. Another thing that we used when we were kind of starting to scale up was a thing called let's see, Monday.com is one that had some really good task management software. I felt like Smartsheet is kind of like an online cloud-based Excel. So if you're interested in doing that, and now we use CRM systems that have that in it. So Client Hub was a CRM system that we used for quite a while that I still highly recommend. We're in the process of switching over to another one called Count. Um, but do recommend that you go through and when you onboard a client, write down the steps that you're going to have to take to close the books every time. Some of the videos that we went over earlier about how to do certain things in there should help you get an idea for some of the items that you need to take care of. But make sure you have some task and project management software for your firm. Um, the second thing is you're going to have clients that no matter how much you tell them this is how we're going to do things, they're going to be in a hurry and they're going to try to do things outside of the procedures that you agreed. Um, this is one of the hardest parts of my job, and I kind of hate it. It is not a fun part for me, but it's always that gray area about where are you going to draw the line? Like, how much are you going to let them get away with? How much is it disrupting things? And I will say that when you first start, you'll let them get away with quite a bit because they're going to be one of very few clients of yours. And so you've got the time to herd those cats and to let them just shoot you a text with information in it or give you a call. And it's like a 5-minute thing for you. So you go ahead and do it. As you start scaling and as you start adding those, that to your portfolio, or you start adding staff members where it's no longer convenient for them to text you things because now you have to turn around and text that to the person who's actually doing that transactional work. Or maybe you hire a payroll specialist where all of the payroll for all of the clients is done there, and you don't want that one person having to receive text messages from your whole team. um, so it's important to think about what are your actual line in the sand procedures, both internal and external. And really, this is something that I highly recommend that you review on a quarterly basis. Start looking at the things that are taking a really long time. Even if you are not billing hourly, I do recommend you track your time. What are you spending the most time on so that you can look at that and determine, is there a way that I can make this go faster, either with automations or starting to herd those cats. Start telling those clients, hey, even if you forgot to write it into your engagement letter, start floating the idea of, so hey, we're about to start doing this. Here's this new, we had to do this when we first got a portal for people, where we would contact them and say, so hey, we're about to have a portal that's going to be great. Here's all the wonderful things that it does for you, but this is how we expect you to send us information. Do not put it in my personal mailbox. Do not text me, people's social security numbers. When you are paying a vendor and you think you're going to pay them over $600, we need a W-9 on file. Like, determine what those procedures are. This is going to be something that you're going to constantly be evolving. Again, we review it on a quarterly basis. And you've got to figure out where your line is with your clients on how much you're going to allow them to work outside those agreed procedures, and also your staff or yourself, right? Like, you've got to get to a point where you can scale this in such a way that it makes sense and you're not just adding stress to your life. So, definitely important. The other big one, scope creep. I keep pounding on this because this is another thing that is just huge, in this world, is you just really got to keep an eye on that. We set all of our engagements up, with a clause in there that we review those annually. You might want to do that more often than that. I've actually thought about whether it makes sense for me to start changing that in my engagement letter to say we will be reviewing this on a quarterly or a semi-annual basis, um, because it's something that you need to be getting paid for what you do. And so making sure that that scope creep, that your pricing is going up as that customer grows or as that customer adds responsibility to you, you want to make sure that you're getting paid for that, especially under value based, project pricing, flat fee pricing. You want to make sure that those hours are being paid. Your time is your most valuable resource, so protect it at all cost. I don't want any of you to feel like you got tricked into starting this great business that's supposed to offer great flexibility, and you guys are all imagining yourself sitting on the beach with your laptop doing a couple of things and then sipping from your Mai Tai over here. And then you find out you get into it 5 years and you're a frazzled mess who maybe looks a lot like me. In that you're sitting here and you're tied to your computer because you have more tasks coming in than you can get out, and you constantly feel overwhelmed. I don't want you to get into that situation. Be aware you're going to have a little bit of that when you get started, just because you're going to learn what you do and do not like. But always remember, this is your mission statement. Your time is your most valuable resource. You should be compensated for the time that you're spending on things. Or you need to be changing internal processes to make your time reduced on things. So you really do need to start keeping in mind, as you grow, as that budget grows, set aside some for a tech stack. Set aside some to hand off some tasks to people. Like, it probably would have been a good idea for me to go ahead and hand off the putting together of these videos to somebody else, except that I'm kind of doing this more as a labor of love than an actual thing. So I just didn't have any money in my budget to do this. So apologies, you're having to put up with me. But your time is your most valuable resource, and you should be consistently and constantly watching that clock, so to speak, and figuring out ways to get more time back, because that time is either billable so you can increase your revenue, or that time can be spent doing things other than working. So thank you guys so much. I have one more session that I want to share with you that's just about this mentorship program that you keep hearing me mention. Um, if you don't want to watch that, that is totally okay, because it is going to be more of a sales pitch type thing that will give you some links and things that you can go and contact us for paid services. But I'm hoping that for $5 that this part of the course was very helpful, and that it at least gives you a starting point, and you are by no means beholden to sign up for this. But I did want to offer it just in case somebody does think that they would like some additional help in this. Thank you guys so much for joining me.